Cricket governance is essentially run by the ICC, of course, and the big three, which is BCCI, the ECB, and Cricket Australia. Again, right, this is where the power flows, and it has been a long running conversation. And you've sat inside these rooms. So do you leave that world with optimism that there will come a fine day that cricket governs itself, or is it far more complicated than that?
I think it's complicated. I think the principles are simple. But I think it's complicated because of where we've come from. And so that creates, is it complicated or is it complex? It's complex.
Hey, I'm not going to debate anything you say.
No, you should, I'd encourage it. What is it? Complicated means, that it's hard to work out, but once you've worked it out, you can work it out. Complex is like almost like a different problem every day. You know, blah blah blah. Anyway, I think it's complex. So the governing board of the sport should be operating in the best interests of the sport, and that goes beyond financial interest. That goes across the globe. Best interests of the sport. Unfortunately, the way that sport's structured, not just the ICC, but sport in general, when you've got some of the models that operate, you represent one level to then represent that group at the next level and at the next level. And whilst ever you're doing that, there's conflicts of interest. So I think it would be worthwhile cricket considering how it governs in the interests of the sport, not of any individual part of that, because everyone across the globe should have a right to access the sport. And at the moment, that's difficult because of the way that it's structured. Some people are unseen and therefore they don't have an opportunity to advocate for themselves. Depends on your agenda. If your agenda is to make the most money, then perhaps we're in the right spot. If your agenda is to create a sport that is growing and thriving and flourishing in all corners of the globe, then I'd argue we're not quite on the right page yet.
Yeah. Well, fair shout again. But again, like segueing into my next point, which is, cricket's pushing hard and trying to develop pathways and essentially expand into the developing countries. And United States is one such good example where they hosted the T20 World Cup a couple of years back, and now with the Olympics 2028 campaign. So for you particularly, you've seen what it takes to build a sport somewhere completely new. And what does it actually feel for a sport to feel like, you know what, I'm in a place of home, or like that feels like home? Sorry.
Yeah, I think there's two things that need to be in place. The first is the exposure. It needs to be interesting, inspiring, and I need to know what this thing looks like when it's at its best. And I think cricket's got they understand that bit. Like, that's why the Major League Cricket was critical.
Absolutely.
That's why all the short form, the IL T20, all that's why that's critical, right? You need good players coming in and you need to demonstrate that this is when it's working well, this is what this game looks like. Cricket's fragmented at the moment because the next bit underneath that is like, now I need to get the kids in the country playing. So it's a long-term strategy. And if you're not got the kids in the country playing, then you are creating a fan base for that sport. You're not creating a pipeline or a really deep understanding of the sport. And that's often a generational shift. So in the US, I think the challenge is not the MLC part. I think they've done pretty well with that. The challenge is who and how are they making sure that every boy and girl in that country understands what this game is, has a bat and ball in their hand, that costs money. Who is charged with the responsibility of doing that? And how are they going to operate, whether it's a major league franchise or the governing body, USA Cricket, how are they going to work together to make that happen?